Hi there, it's Teacher Mike from Phuket Pals. Welcome back to another GED Social Studies video. In this one, we're going to be looking at the legislative branch. This is the lawmaking body of the US government, of the federal government. It's one of the three branches of the US federal government, the other two being the judiciary and the executive. And we discussed those in more depth in video 5. So if you want to go back and get like an overview of the federal government, I advise you do that. Okay, but today we'll look at the legislative branch and give you a bit of an overview of what it's about. It's also known as the Congress. Okay, so in the GED Social Studies test, you might see this referred to as the legislative branch. You might see it referred to as Congress. You might see it referred to as the legislature as well. Okay, there are two houses. There are two parts to Congress, or the legislative branch. The first part is the House of Representatives, or the lower house, and the second house is called the Senate. Both of these houses have an equal amount of power. Okay, they act as part of the system of checks and balances. They act as a kind of balance to each other, and I'll kind of explain to you how that works. Now, the House of Representatives is made up of representatives in equal proportion to the population of each of the 50 states of the USA. So if you have a state with a very high population, then they will have a greater number of representatives in the House, or the House of Representatives. And if you have a lower, like a very small population in your state, something like Hawaii or Maine, then you'll have much fewer representatives in the House of Representatives, okay? Now, someone new to this, someone new to US politics might say, well, that's hardly fair. You know, how can you have a lawmaking body in a country like the US in which more populated states have a much stronger, a much greater chance of getting laws that help them out passed? Well, that's a good question, and the good old founding fathers had an answer to that, as always. They created the Senate as well. Now, the Senate is the second house, okay, also known as the upper house, and it has about 100 members. Not about, it has 100 members, 2 for each state. There are 50 states in the US. The Senate has 50 members, okay, now, or senators. These represent each of the 50 states, and as you can see, it's very different from the House of Representatives. In the House of Representatives, you've got about 430 or 450, I think it's 430 something, members. Senate only has 100, okay, but the Senate, let's see how it works. Like, if let's say a bill or a proposed piece of law goes through the House of Representatives, okay, let's say it's passed, and as we know, states like California, Texas, and New York State, they have very, very big populations compared to the other states of the US. So, as you might say, that's unfair, or maybe the smaller states might get forgotten about in a system such as this, but not so. Because in the Senate, each of the states is represented equally by 2 senators, okay? Which means the Senate can actually block a proposed piece of law by the House of Representatives if they want. They can prevent it, they can send it back and and say to the House of Representatives, do it again. Okay, this isn't fair for the state of Oregon, or this isn't fair for whatever smaller state that is. So you can see it provides a balance. Okay, it provides a balance. On the one hand, in the lower house here, you get representation based on population, and then in the second, in the upper house, in the Senate, you get each state gets their own individual voice with their 2 senators. Okay, move on down. Okay, now with the House of Representatives, every 10 years, the government sends out a census. If you don't know what a census is, a census, excuse me, the census are documents, documents that are sent out to every household in the USA, and the head of each household has to fill out the information, like number of people living in the house, occupation, blah, 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 everything like that. So what happens is every 10 years, the government gets an accurate indication of the population of each state. and then it will modify the number of seats given to each state for House of Representatives representation. So maybe in a 10-year period, the population of a certain state decreases. Well, that'll be reflected then in the number of seats they receive in the House of Representatives. Okay, and we've kind of covered this bit already. Okay, so we'll go through it again. Why not? Why not? In case I was speaking too quickly there. So states with larger populations contain more electoral districts and therefore elect more members to the House. We've said that already. Members of the House serve 2-year terms. Okay, so if you get elected to the House of Representatives, you can't stay there for your whole career. Every 2 years, it's rotated. In the Senate, by contrast, each state is represented by 2 senators, as we said, regardless of the state's population. Thus, states with small populations have the same number of votes in the Senate as states with large populations. Okay, as we said, that's to provide a balance, a counterbalance, a pushback, you could call it, pushback against proposed laws from the House. Senators are elected by all the voters in a state, and they serve 6-year terms. Okay, 6-year terms. The Speaker of the House, okay, is the presiding officer of the House and is elected by its members. He or she typically is the leader of the majority party. Okay, so that's kind of the Speaker, the main, I suppose, the person in the highest position of the House of Representatives. Okay, next, the powers of Congress are listed in Article 1 of the US Constitution. These listed powers are called enumerated powers. Okay, key term. You might see this in the test, enumerated powers. Although the elastic clause allows Congress to stretch its powers to fit specific situations as needed. So although there are specific powers that Congress has under the US Constitution, okay, and these are these powers called enumerated powers, these are split kind of equally between the House and the Senate. But there is a little bit of crossover sometimes. But there is a clause in the Constitution called the elastic clause, which means in kind of extreme circumstances, Congress might have a little bit more power in certain areas than others, just depending on the circumstance. So what are these powers? What are the enumerated powers that Congress has? You're looking at the power to tax, okay? You're looking at power to regulate commerce and the currency, to introduce bills, to declare war and maintain an army and a navy, and to admit new states into the Union, to approve treaties and to impeach the president. Okay, impeach. Those not from the US may not know what impeach the president means. It means kick the president out. If the president is doing something unconstitutional or something illegal, perhaps, Congress might think enough is enough, let's kick this person out. Okay, and they can do that. So you can see Congress is very, very powerful. They're dealing with the big issues that the country has to face. They're dealing with taxation, regulating business and currency, introducing bills, so proposed new laws, declaring war, which is obviously a very important thing, maintaining the army and the navy, so national defense, and taking new states into the Union. Okay, so there are 50 states in the US. The 50th state taken in was Hawaii. The 49th was Alaska. So you can see Congress does do this from time to time. Yes, that's about it. That is about it. Okay. All right, so that is all. I hope that helps you a little bit with the legislature. I'll be back with another video very soon to help you out with your GED social studies. Thank you and have a good day. Bye-bye.